Good morning, everybody. Just a few words to begin about the situation in Iran. I don't think Israel, frankly, had any choice as Iran moves closer and closer to nuclear weapon capability, and as Iran clearly states, they want to wipe Israel and its people off the face of the map. I don't think they had any choice at all. I'm pleased that the Americans have intervened. Generally, I'm against military interventions. I was vehemently opposed to what happened in Libya. I was strongly opposed to what happened in Iraq 20 years ago. And I've always thought that going for regime change was a really very dangerous policy, because you don't know what is going to follow. In this case, this Iranian regime, brutal, evil, they've been there for 4 decades, and I still find it actually quite difficult to believe that Obama, the European Union, and of course the ever-reliable British Foreign Office got all of this completely and utterly wrong with the JCPOA agreement just over a decade ago, which just simply allowed tens of billions of dollars to be freed up for the Iranians, which they've used to fund the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and anybody else that intends to cause grief. So I hope and believe that the American reports are right and that Iran no longer has nuclear capability, and we'll see what comes after that. Perhaps the only surprise is the only person in the country who didn't seem to know the Americans were about to do something was the British Prime Minister himself, who appears to be totally dumbfounded by the whole thing, and says there should be de-escalation, whilst in the next sentence saying Iran should not have nuclear capability. We'll look forward to the Prime Minister explaining to the House of Commons this afternoon exactly what the British position is. Over the course of the last few years, a political narrative that has got stronger and stronger is tax the rich. Is it fair that people earn these vast sums of money? Surely we should tax them more. And you might have thought, traditionally, this would be a policy that would come from the Labour Party, but not a bit of it. Not a bit of it. In 14 years in power, under the Conservatives, we saw taxes go up, we saw thresholds frozen, we saw significant changes to non-dom tax rules. Indeed, there was something like 150,000 people with non-dom tax status 10 years ago. That number today probably, we don't know officially yet, but probably nearer now to 60,000 and 70,000, and falling very, very quickly. The counter-arguments that the top 1% of taxpayers pay 30% of a tax take appear not to have made any difference. And that narrative in politics and in the media, a sort of anti-success, anti-money narrative that we've now been living with for a few years, apart, of course, from Premier League footballers. And if they earn £300,000 a week, that's absolutely fine. But there is some justification in anger in our country, some justification that since 2008, the rich have got richer, and those at the lower end of the scale are simply no better off. And it all goes back to the bailouts, it all goes back to the failures of the banking system in 2008, when effectively it was the little man and woman that bailed out the big banks. And ever since then, through a policy of quantitative easing, what we've seen is a massive push in the value of assets. So if you've owned property, if you've owned stocks and shares since 2008, you've had a fantastic time. But for those who don't own property or don't own shares, they are relatively, by some measures, worse off than they were last time round. Now, we saw all of this under George Osborne. Jeremy Hunt accelerated the whole thing, effectively beginning the end of non-dom status, and the media said, wasn't it brilliant? Brilliant! He's triangulated the Labour Party. They can't attack him from the left on money. And all of this, of course, didn't understand human behaviour, didn't understand the sheer mobility that modern-day entrepreneurs and wealthy people have. The last year for which we have full figures shows that 10,800 wealthy people left the country, some of them non-doms, some of them British too. We don't have the updated figures, but certainly all the stories we get from central London is that it is becoming a very rapid exodus. And this is catastrophic for our country. Rachel Reeves, of course, in her first budget has completely finished the job by bringing in all sorts of rules that didn't exist. For example, implications for global wealth on inheritance. Our tax take is falling. Many talented people are leaving. And we want, as a party, as many entrepreneurs, as many risk takers, as many job creators, as many people paying lots of tax, as many people investing huge sums of money. We want as many of them as possible to be in our country. And that is why today we're coming up with this idea of the Britannia card, which Zia will go into more detail. But we're also doing something with a very specific aim, aimed at those in work. One of the things that we heard so often heading up to the 1st of May local elections, a young couple that work, pay for childcare, they say, why do we bother? Because the people next door do nothing, and they're pretty much as well off as we are. And so many things that we talked about making that gap between being on benefits and going to work bigger, and this policy will directly contribute towards that. I spoke to a senior tax advisor in the Far East this morning who said to me, even if people don't take up the Britannia card, big global businessmen and women will buy it anyway to give themselves an option. I'm confident that this will raise a lot of money. I believe it will stop the exodus of people leaving this country. And given that the Labour Party now tend to copy every single policy that we put forward, including today, they're saying that energy bills are too expensive for industry. Well, who knew? Who knew? So I expect within a year, something like the Britannia card will be introduced by Rachel, well, whoever succeeds Rachel Reeves, given that she is the worst Chancellor I've certainly seen in my lifetime. So I hope we're setting the agenda here to stop the exodus and to start to encourage people to come back to this country, both foreigners and British businessmen and women.